offends someone, and as I said earlier, we may not even know we've done it. So it's possible. And that's probably why the psalmist prays what he does in verse 12, for forgiveness from hidden faults. Lord, if I've said anything today that doesn't please you, forgive me for that. But the passion of this prayer is for consistency, for my words and my thoughts, for my outer life and my inner life, to both be pleasing to God. The words, the public part of my life, the part of my life that everybody sees, and my thoughts, the part of my life nobody sees, my inner life. May there be consistency there in my life. Does that make sense? Third observation, as I meditated on this, God said, you know what? Don't miss the little possessive pronoun, my. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight. It's so easy to get sidetracked on what someone else is saying and what someone else might be thinking. Lord, did you hear what so-and-so said? Lord, so-and-so doesn't like me. Do you know what they're thinking? You see what's in their heart? Lord, help her with her tongue. She's always talking about whatever it is, or him. I don't want to just pick on the ladies. Don't miss the little possessive pronoun my. You know, it may be very appropriate to pray sometimes about other people's, what they're saying or what they're thinking, and you know what that is. And so it may be entirely, if it's prayed in the right spirit, an appropriate prayer. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, as I read this, the psalmist is being very introspective. He is being very personal. And he's very focused on his own need to express words and think thoughts that are pleasing to God. And when I read this now, I just underline those words and I say, Lord, help me with my words and help me with my thoughts. There's a sense in which it doesn't matter what so-and-so is thinking and what so-and-so is saying. Not entirely so, but there's a sense in which that's true. And at least in this prayer, the concern is, Lord, I'm standing here before you. You check out my heart and you check out my words, and may they be pleasing in your sight. Now, another observation. Observation number 4. Don't fail to offer less than what is acceptable. Acceptable or pleasing, depending on the translation you use, and in some sense, it doesn't matter. I'm a professor. And so I've lived the last 20 years with students coming in and out and moving on through my classes and so on. One thing I've learned is that for students, what is acceptable for one isn't acceptable for another. In other words, I'll have students who'll come in there and they'll say, you know what, Dr. Moyer, what do I have to do to get an A? I want to clearly, I will not accept anything less than an A. I'm going to do whatever I can to get an A. That's the only thing that's acceptable to me. And I've had other students flat out tell me, you know what, if I squeak by with a C- in your class, I am good to go. You know, as long as I just get by. And I just know that's going to be the case every year. Whatever students walk into my class, there'll be some that are just going to die if they don't get an A. And there's going to be some that are happy as campers in the world if they can just get a C-. What is acceptable? When it comes to food, what is acceptable to you? I ate over at Angel's today. Man, they had better than acceptable stuff over there. That was great eating. What is acceptable to one person, you know? Some people, those 99-cent Totino's pizzas down at Walmart or wherever you get them, man, that's pizza at its best. You know, that's acceptable. I eat them occasionally, but I buy a can of mushrooms and another bag of cheese to put on them and add some more pepperoni. You know, then you finally got a pizza. You know, and for somebody else, oh no, I'd never eat at Pizza Hut. I got to go to Pizza Ranch. That's the only acceptable pizza for me. What is it? If you're selling your car, what is an acceptable price? If you're selling your home, what is if you're listing stuff on eBay, you don't just most stuff you don't start it at a penny or nothing. You put a bottom line price in there. This is what is acceptable. I really want more than that, but I can live with this. You know, what is acceptable? In other words, when we use this term, what is acceptable, we are trying to define what is minimal, what is passing, what can I get by with. And our temptation would be, and our natural, it did not even have to be a temptation, our natural thinking process when we read this verse would be, what is minimal that I can get by with God? What is the least I can do with my mouth that will please God? What is the least I can do in the innermost thoughts of my heart and still please God and still get by? Because that's just the natural way we think about what is acceptable. That's not the meaning of this word in this context at all. We're completely missing the mark. It is full of sacrificial significance. Because when you read the Old Testament, when it uses this language of being acceptable or pleasing to God, it's usually talking about sacrifices and the people bringing their sacrifices to God. And who defined what is acceptable? God did. God did. And it's God who sets the standard for what our offerings must look like, not us. And so what the psalmist is saying, and remember what God said about the sacrifices. He said, don't bring me the lame stuff. Don't bring me the blemished stuff. Don't bring me anything less than your best. I'm stopping for a moment because you need to let that soak in. So what the psalmist is praying here for is, may my speech and my thought life be offered up to you as an acceptable sacrifice, God. Not my definition of what is acceptable, but your definition of what is acceptable. And what he's praying for here is that his innermost thoughts and his speech will meet God's standards. That they won't just be passing, that they won't be just getting by, that they won't be just minimally pleasing to him, but that they will be everything he expects and wants them to be. And when I began to understand that, when that dawned on me, I was sitting at my desk one day and praying over and thinking about it, and I finally realized it, and I just said, wow. I may have said it out loud. Wow. The psalmist is saying, Lord, here are my words. Here are my thoughts. I'm laying them on the altar. May they meet your standards of what is really pleasing and acceptable to you. And I'm going, wow. This is powerful. And it's further emphasized by the words he said, may they be acceptable in your sight. You know, sometimes we say or think things, mostly say things, to impress someone else.